Hey everybody, welcome back to CALLOUS Draft Duel. We are in the quarterfinals. Pretty exciting stuff. All the players that have made it this far have beaten 2 opponents to get here, and obviously have some grasp on the format, except for maybe our player 1, DarthTyros. I say that like mostly jokingly. His picks have been funky, and frankly I've scratched my head and questioned a number of them, but you know, a draft, 2 drafts, maybe you can question him a little bit. And right now he does have 2 drafts and 2 wins, but I mean, if he beats Zok, if he wins the whole damn tournament, it just gets harder and harder to question him. There's a method to the madness. I don't know that I necessarily agree with the method, but his weird picks aside, it has been working for him. He's had a unique strategy that is not overly close to what the other players are doing. He certainly values Regirock more than anybody else that I know. And yeah, I can't argue with the results, I guess. He's here. Zokuru on the other end, a little more standard, just getting there through less flashy, solid draft, solid play, which is what I would expect from him. And this is a pretty exciting matchup, as are all the quarterfinal matchups. So let's get into their draft. DarthTyros, as you see, on the left, player 1, the red player. Zokuru on the right, player 2, in the blue. And Tyros, with the first ban, is going to kick off our first quarterfinal draft by removing Zapdos, which is interesting because I know in OU that this is like one of his favorite mons. He had an absolute hard-on for sub-pass Zapdos for a long time. I remember when I was in Mushi League as one of the managers, that was always the thing that we wanted to prepare against when we were playing against Tyros. That was just his favorite mon, but I guess he's either graduated from that and found a new love in his life, or he just sees draft completely differently. But someone who, like I said, at one point, maybe he still does, really loved Zapdos, does not want Zapdos to partake in this particular match, so out it goes. Zokuru going to respond with Metagross, which is understandable, has been one of the absolute most common first picks up to this point. I'm not surprised that that gets the boot here. The response is going to be Salamence. So certainly the theme as the tournament has evolved is that the proactive, I can just win by myself, usually I get 2 for 1, I'm versatile, I'm fast, I hit hard. The win condition kind of mons have been the things that have been banned out more so than the good walls or the general like all around threats but they don't actually win. Stuff that can just win games. Stuff that can in and of itself just be a proactive take over the game kind of threat. Which makes sense logically. But one thing that's interesting, and I don't want to spoil too much, but I think Skarm, as the tournament has continued, it was like perma-banned in the first round and damn close in the second round. But as the tournament has carried on, more and more people have been willing to let it go through bans, and this is going to be another one of those times. It's going to be the Gengar ban here, so the option to take Skarm is with Tyros here, but alternatively, if he prefers Lax or Arrow or one of the other things that are available, Celebi, whatever, T-Tar even, those options are there, but Tyros is not going to deviate too wildly here. He is going to take the first pick Skarm when it's available, which I think is wise because you know that Zok would have taken it there if it had come to him. But Zok is just going to respond with Blissey pretty early, I think, but possibly very worried about giving up the Skarm Bliss combo. And then Tyranitar, which also, as we've progressed, has started to make it through bans more often than it did earlier in the tournament. So the response from Tyros is interesting. He's going to go double Natural Curemon in both Celebi and Starmie. And they both have some amount of play against the T-Tar. Not that they're proper T-Tar counters, per se. Obviously, a DD-Tar with some bulk and HP bug or whatever is still a big threat to those mons. But they have some play against T-Tar. And certainly with Blissey already taken out of play, Tyros may be worried about status absorbers, natural cure, what have you, and may want to prioritize this. The other thing that he's doing is by grabbing the Starmie when he himself is the Skarmory drafter. He's trying to take the good spinners out of play as well. However, one thing that I'm a little bit unsure about is giving up T-Tar plus Arrow in the same draft to the same guy. I think that is a very potent and difficult to stop combination. However, Zoc, with those options, does not take the Aerodactyl, which is a head scratcher for me. I would be certainly taking Aerodactyl here. In fact, looking ahead by one pick, I like what Tyros takes. I think what Tyros ends up taking in his next round is probably what I would take if I were Zokuru here. But Zoc sees it a different way, and he's going to opt for Moltres, which is an understandable pick, to be fair. And Milotic, bit of a head scratcher. But the Moltres makes a lot of sense. So against Skarm, Celebi, obviously a huge threat. Not exciting into Starmie, but like fine. Moltres just good in general. And I think the idea here, and I don't hate it, I think the idea for Zoc is that already having the Blissey and then immediately taking the Milotic with the Moltres, two of its absolute best counters have now immediately been removed from play. So I understand what he's doing, and I don't hate it at all. It's definitely a good strategy. This is one of the better ways to draft in this format, by taking something with its counter at the same time. That makes a lot of sense. So I like the pick, and I like the mindset. The problem is Tyros is going to get insane value here by going both Aerodactyl and Raikou. That seems crazy good for a 4th and 5th pick. Like I said, if I were Zoc, I would have probably taken these two exact mons, Aerodactyl and Raikou. I like me some Aerodactyl against the Celebi Starmie. I really love Aerodactyl when you also have T-Tar, and you can just overwhelm them with the rock spam. And then looking at a Skarm and a Starmie on the other side, I'm into the Raikou as well. And you have Blissey, so one of its best counters is gone. But even more crucially, man, Snorlax is still floating around, something that has often been first picked. So this is either a really weird draft, or the metagame in a short time, just 2 rounds worth of time, has really changed and really evolved. There's no way that some of these picks, Arrow, Raikou would still be here, Snorlax would still be here, Skarm through bans, Tar through bans. It really does look distinctively different than it did earlier in the tournament. This draft would never have happened in round 1, but the metagame rapidly evolving before our eyes, and I find that absolutely fascinating, and I can't wait to see where it continues to go. So the response here is going to be to pass up on the Snorlax from Zokuru's point of view. And this is either just like a next level, he sees the metagame a certain way, or just a little bit of a jab, a little bit of a middle finger to Tyros. But he is going to deny him of his precious Regirock. He's going to go double Regi here, both Reg Ice and Regirock. The Regirock might be, I mean, as much as he's giving Tyros a little bit of a needle, a little bit of a middle finger, I don't think the pick was mostly that. I think it's just a bonus, but as an actual pick, just taking any we know Tyros likes it kind of stuff out of it, I think the Regirock makes a lot of sense. It is a good poke against the Aerodactyl that your opponent already has. It's good against Tar that you have, so it's a protection pick. It's good against Moltres that you have, so it's a protection pick. And yeah, I mean, maybe Zokuru agrees with Tyros. Tyros thinks it is a top 10 Mon in this format. I don't know that I can get there. I think it's good. Top 10? Ugh, a little rich for my blood. You can get me there on like top 20. Maybe the lower end of top 15, but I'm not even sure about that. But like maybe. But top 10, man, I don't know that I'm there for that. The Regice pick makes sense as well. Bolt Beam good against Celebi, against Starmie. It's a threat to Arrow, but it obviously doesn't take hits well. It's a threat to Skarm. It can potentially deal with the Raikou if it is the Psych Upset, which probably if you're going to bring Regice and your opponent hasn't brought the Raikou yet, you probably want to be Psych Up, but we'll see. But as strong as the Mons are for Tyros, which is obviously a huge part in this, I think I like the way so far that Zoc matches up against Tyros a little bit better. But that being said, this is another example. This pick would never have happened in the earlier rounds of the draft. The lax being this late is crazy. How many times have you seen someone go 4-5 Arrow Raikou and then 6-7 lax Swampert? On paper, an incredible opening 7 for Tyros. It really doesn't get too much stronger than that. But like I said, I think Zok doing a lot of things right as well. And his squad, though it is certainly on the slower, fatter side, there is a serious lack of speed control over here, whereas we've got Starmie, Arrow, Raikou, all lightning speed on the other end. But I think Zok is doing a lot of things right. He's really made that Moltres very threatening, and he's also taking some of the better special walls away, obviously Lax not being one of those. And I think that the stuff that he has, like I said, generally matches up reasonably well into what Tyros has. He's got the Blissey for the Raikou. He's got the Regirock against the Aerodactyl and the Lax. He's got the Milo against the Swampert, and so on and so forth. So we'll see. I'm not clear who's winning this draft right now, but I'm very intrigued by how very clearly different this is than what has come before it. So Zokuru gets to ban first, and he's going to take Breloom out of play. That is not surprising at all. He has both T-Tar and Blissey and Regice and Regirock. So as it stands, he's got 4 fighting weaknesses and only the 1 resist in Moltres. So I would not be surprised to see him even ban out a second fighter here. Likewise, when it gets to him for picks, wouldn't be surprised to see him take at least 1, if not 2 fighters here. He very much has a fighting weakness right now. And yeah, he's obviously aware of that, removing the Breloom from the pool. Tyros, on the other hand, is going to opt for Claydol. That's going to be double duty, so that's going to get a rock resist out of the way for his arrow, though of note, it's going to also get a rock resist out of the way that he could have taken for T-Tar. It's also going to assist his Raikou that wants Claydol to not be there. And then he's also trying to monopolize the good spinners, so both Claydol and Starmie are either on his side or gone. And now he just has to figure out what he wants to do with Fortress. Maybe he'll ban that as well. And Zokuru here has the same idea. He's going to also ban one of the good spikers and spinners. He's going to take Cloyster out of the field. So I wonder if Tyros here ever considers banning Fori. All of a sudden, the spiker options would be much, much crappier. I mean, they'll always be there. There's always bad ones. There's always the Roselias and Omastars of the world, but it gets a lot worse if you take Fori out here. But that's not what he's going to do. He's going to opt for Dugtrio, which is interesting from Tyros. Like, I don't know. There's a T-Tar and a Blissey on the other side. Do you ever consider taking Dugtrio? But this does provide some protection. He does have a Celebi, a Starmie, and a Raikou who all don't want to play against Dugtrio, so fine. But my overall Dugtrio opinion is largely the same as it's been this whole time, which is that it's just not very good. Even if it kills one thing, who cares? It's only going to have 1 or 2 targets at most. You get punished every time you do it. Still not high on Dugtrio. I would have let it through, but I seem to be the lowest on Dugtrio of anybody in this whole damn tournament. Everybody seems to respect it more than I do, so fair enough. So those bans are done. Now Zokuru with the option of what to do, and these picks both make sense to me. Takes Fori while it's still available. Spikers and Spinners drying up very quickly. And then he's going to have all 3 Regis by taking Registeel as well. So Zok has the fat defensive stuff that he's looking for. This is very much his kind of squad. Speed control is an issue here, but he's got a lot of T-Waves. Blissey, T-Tar, believe it or not, and all 3 Regis, they all learn Thunder Wave. So as fast as the stuff is on the other side, Zok's got a damn good way to slow it down if he needs it. And that's going to be the 4th normal resist, in fact, between the T-Tar, the Fori, the Registeel, the Regirock, to have a little bit of play against the Lax as well. So like I said, it's interesting because I think that on paper, maybe Tyros has the more powerful Mons, though I think that's pretty questionable in and of itself. But even if he does, like I said, I think Zok is taking things that match up very well into what Tyros is doing, and I think ultimately that's the key to the format. I love the Regis, the Rock and the Steel against the Arrow, for example. And I think, like I said, he's protecting his Tar, he's padding up pretty well against the Lax, he's not that worried about the Pert. I think Zok's doing a lot of things right, and it's too early, but I feel like Zok is responding pretty well to Tyros, whereas I'm not clear if Tyros is just drafting the stuff that he wants to draft or if he's factoring Zokuru at all. Here is his response, which is interesting. He's going to go with Heracross. Like I said, fighter's obviously a threat. In fact, Zok has added another fight weakness, so he's got what? 5 fighting weaknesses now? That is a hell of a lot of fighting weaknesses when you only have 1 resist in the Moltres. And it isn't even really resist because almost all the fighters just learned Rock Slide, which would blow up the Moltres instantly. So that's definitely something that Zokuru is going to have to address. And then Gyarados as well. Maybe not exciting into the triple Reggie squad, but definitely a good mon as a general statement in this format. And with Men's Band, Intimidate is a premium ability. There's only so many good ones of. Arcanine and Tauros both have been picked in this tournament, but Gyarados is certainly the best of the bunch, so gonna grab the Gyara now. I certainly agree with these picks from Zokuru. He's going to take Hariyama, which is going to both give him a fighter against the Lax on the other side and deny his opponent of a fighter, crucially. And then he's also going to grab Weezing, which is double duty against any fighters that Tyros may grab that Zokuru is very weak to right now. The Weezing is going to neutralize those. And then again, it is good against the Lax, and it's reasonable against the Arrow as well. Weezing, I think, has been very good throughout this entire tournament. Weezing, I think, is quite a bit better in this format than it is in OU, and I think it should continue to go up and up and up from where it had been picked. It had been picked in round 3 a lot. Sometimes it isn't picked at all. Weezing, I think, in like mid to high round 2 is not unreasonable whatsoever. I think Weezing is very legit and very strong in this format. So I actually really like that pick from Zokuru. I have no gripes with taking Weezing this, quote, early whatsoever. On the flip side of that, Charizard and Vaporeon. Charizard definitely a threat against Fori and Double Reggie here. And then it's also pretty good against the Weezing. It can threaten the Blissey, the Tar, whatever with Focus Punch. Zard is a dangerous mon, and it's at its best against really fat, slow, stally teams. I think it's very much the kind of Pokemon that you want to have against Zoc. I think it's going to be a big threat no matter who brings what when. I think this is just always going to be good. I love the Zard pick up there for Tyros. That's a pick that I absolutely agree with and approve of. Vaporeon, not an exciting mon, never has been, never will be, but Bulky Waters just kind of do what they do. They are solid and reliable, and you can tune it a little bit. You can go like BP Sub, you could pass Wish, you could just have it be, you could have it Haze or Roar if you want to have a really, really defensive set. Hits pretty hard if you want to go an offensive route. But ultimately, Vaporeon is just slow, steady, reliable, kind of like Milotic. And Bulky Water's starting to run dry. He had the option there of Slowbro, Slowking, Blastoise, but opted for Vaporeon, which, as I've said throughout these videos, I think Vaporeon's better than those mons, but not everybody feels the same way. On the flip side, so Dragonite here. You guys know I love me some Dragonite. And then Umbreon is interesting, giving him possibly a second pursuit option, so Tar and Umbreon can both maybe support Fori if he's trying to get rid of Ghosts. Now, granted, Tyros doesn't currently have a Ghost, and Gengar is banned out, but that certainly doesn't mean we still have Dusclops, Misdreavus, both of which have been taken many times in this tournament, floating in the breeze. I don't think anyone has taken Banette yet, but still an option. And hell, Sableye has even gotten some love in the tournament, so that's a thing as well. But another thing that he's doing with the Umbreon pick is he's taking another special wall. So I think he's really trying to choke Tyros out in that regard. And I'm curious if Zokuru at some point is just going to turn on the gas in round 3 and just take things like Alakazam, Kingdra, Sceptile, whatever. And all of a sudden his opponent is kind of caught with his pants down with only one special wall in the Lax. It might be a problem, as Zokuru has been pretty diligent about plucking those away throughout this draft. So now it's on Tyros again, and he is going to take Medicham and Alakazam. I am on board with that for sure. Again, for the reasons that we already discussed, here's another fighting weakness in Umbreon. F-ton of fighting weaknesses on Zokuru's side. Load up on those fighters. If it gets through bans, seriously, Tyros, consider him a champ. Consider Blaziken, whoever you want to grab here. I would grab more fighters. They are clearly good in this matchup. Alakazam, I think, is both good against the opponent-ish, but also really good against you if you're Tyros. So I think that pick makes a lot of sense because Zam is a mon that you do not want Zokuru to grab. And then, again, against just a slow, fat team that doesn't have a ton of offense, that gives Zam a lot of opportunities to get a CM or two off and then just kind of go to town, I think the Alakazam is pretty good against Zokuru as well. Not incredible against Umbreon, or if it is Pursuitar or Blissey or whatever. Zok does have answers, but there are absolutely scenarios where, whatever, it's a late game and he's got Reggie, Moltres, and one other poke left, and the Alakazam on its own just completely cleans the game up. So Zok obviously going to have to be very aware of that when he builds his teams. Wow, these are some spice picks here. Zok is going to go Sableye and also Arcanine. I love these picks. I really do. So Arcanine is spicy into both Heracross and Charizard. It takes damn near anything Zard wants to throw at it pretty damn well. The Intimidate can matter. Obvious Fire Resist, Hidden Power Ice, Grass, whatever. It doesn't matter. Takes Focus Punch just fine after the Intimidate. Even Earthquake, which like Zard isn't very good at and doesn't carry that often. The Arcanine does not take as much as you would think if it's full bulk and if it has Intimidate. It's also good against Heracross. Heracross, again, other than Earthquake, doesn't have anything that's super effective against it. Rock Slide, super effective, but like underwhelming. Megahorn, resisted, intimidated. Arcanine has the bulk and the fire pressure to handle that kind of mon pretty well. And I also like it against Celebi. I also like it against Skarm. I think the Arcanine is a great pickup here. Sableye is interesting. He has his pick of the litter on Ghost. Sableye, I guess, has been the preferred Ghost in the Snorlax matchup, which of course is what we have here. And Zokuru has clearly, I think, two different stall teams here. So the fact that he's opting for the Ghost with Knockoff, not surprising to me. I also think it's the Ghost that he least wants his opponent to take, because if Tyros were to pick up Misdreavus or Dusclops, as we already discussed, there is Cheetar that can be Pursuitar and Umbreon already waiting, so he's not all that worried about those ghosts. But Sableye is not nearly as vulnerable with its Dark typing to Pursuit users, so doing that would not be as effective against that specific ghost. So all things considered, all these picks really make sense to me, and I totally get why he opted for that ghost, Sableye, over any of the other options. And I think Zok is having a pretty smart draft. We'll see if he's going to pull the same trick that he pulled in round 1, successfully, might I add, where he completely switches gears in round 3 and just goes all aggro and throws together some janky, special-ish offense team, and then just has two stall teams on top of it. It worked in round 1. It could work again. So here is Tyros now. With his ban, he's going to remove Crobat. I could take or leave that ban. I think, if he's doing that, he must be planning on taking more fighters down the road, because Crobat, first and foremost, is an anti-fighter counter pick. It can be used on stall teams, but I don't think it's that good. And, he has two fighters right now, so maybe in his mind that's enough. But like I said, banning Crobat, I think, means that he's got another fighter in mind, whether it's Machamp or Blaziken. Probably going to take one of those down the road. I don't know that Crobat is really all that good or really worth banning, to be honest, so I don't love that, but there's worse things you could ban, certainly. Zokuru is going to take Flygon out of the way. He's the T-Tar drafter. That's the only explanation I need, but it also happens to be a threat against Regirock, Registeel, generally good Bulkmon. I could see why it would be potentially difficult for him to deal with, and I can absolutely support that ban. Blastoise, interesting. Cutting off a spinner here. Spinner options getting a little bit dry, and they both do need them. There's just the one spinner here, Starmie for Tyros, and currently only the one spinner for Zok as well in the form of the Fori. So We'll see if there's a little bit of a scrap for the remaining Spiker spinners. Glalie still in play. And then Armaldo has seen some love as a spinner. There's also Tentacruel, who hasn't gotten picked very often. A couple other options. But there very well may be a little round one fight for what is left of the Spikers and Spinners, which are certainly not of the same quality of those that are already unavailable. And of note, Cacturn is allowed in this when T-Tar is banned, but T-Tar is not banned, so Cacturn is not a legal pick in this, and that means there is one fewer Spiker option. And Zokuru, again, is just going to take out a Tyranitar counter, which makes a ton of sense to me. Consistent banning here, Flygon Donphan. Same exact logic here. Just a bulky ground type, EQ a threat to T-Tar, Regirock, Registeel, what have you. I get it. It is sensible to me. Going into the third round here, certainly while aggression can always just win, always just get there, you're one crit, one freeze, one added effect, whatever, away from just winning. With that caveat aside, I would say that I like Zokuru's draft better at this time, but we'll finish out the third round, and then you guys can let me know in the comments who you think got the better end of this draft. Kicking off the third and final round of picks, Tyros gonna opt for Venusaur and Entei. Let's give it a look. Venusaur, huh? Yeah, I mean, I guess anything that's like faster than most of the team, which is most things, many things, because Zokuru's team is very slow. I guess anything fast with a sleep move is just generally good. As far as coverage, the Venusaur doesn't blow me away. Zok is not loaded up on fighters, which Venusaur resists, and not really loaded up on electrics either. In fact, he has no electrics, so coverage-wise and typing-wise, Venusaur doesn't blow me away, but if it's just a general good mon with a sleep move, then, like, fine. But I feel like maybe there is something better he could pick there. I'm not wildly impressed by the Venusaur pick, but, like, it's okay. Entei I'm down with, for sure. 4E Registeel Regice, bring on the fire types. Totally cool with the Entei here. It doesn't seem like Zok has a ton of answers. Kind of, sort of Blissey, but like even then, not really. Entei can make 101 or more HP subs that Blissey cannot break with S-Toss, and then Entei can Calm Mind up and make it so moves like Thunderbolt, for example, don't break your subs either. In fact, after a single Calm Mind, I don't think they break your subs anymore, so Blissey is not nearly as good into Entei as you would think that it would be, or as good as Blissey would be into most CMers. And then, yeah, I mean, my Lotix stops it, but that's just one dude. I could absolutely see how the Entei would be pretty threatening to a lot of what Zokuru has drafted, so I definitely like that pickup. Zok is going to go for Houndoom here, so he's really, really winning the Ghost Spike War if Tyros even decides to participate, and he's also going to take Armaldo, which has been a common and logical pick. It's both a spinner and a lax counter. So, yeah, I mean, if Tyros, he only even has the one Spiker, so, like, maybe he's not even going to go this way, but if Tyros does decide that he wants a Ghost to try to protect his spikes or whatever, Zok is so ready with Houndoom, Umbreon, and T-Tar. Triple potential Pursuit user. Pursuit user on every team. Dusclops, Misdreavus, whatever, going to have a really, really difficult time if Tyros grabs those. Not to mention that by taking all these Pursuit users, Zokuru can now grab those Ghosts if he wants Dusclops or if he wants Misdreavus, and the Pursuit options are going to basically not be there. There are other Pokemon that learn Pursuit, of course, but non-stab Pursuit, something like Altaria, something like Sceptile, very underwhelming, not nearly the same as getting hit with a Pursuit from like Houndoom or Tar. So, yeah, I mean, Zok has choked out both special walls and good Pursuit users here, and it's kind of poking a hole in Tyros' team. I would not be surprised to see Zokuru be the one to pick up, like, Dusclops or something, which Tyros doesn't have a fantastic answer to at this time. What Tyros does do, and I'm not surprised, like I said, given the Crobat ban, he's going to grab Machamp. And then additionally, he's going to grab Slowbro. I like both of these picks. Mixed threats, mixed breakers are just gonna be good against the very slow defensive kind of teams that Zokuru is making. Slowbro and Charizard, even though they seem like totally different mons, I actually think kind of fill a similar role. They go about it differently, but by and large, they are both mixed breakers. They're both focus punch users with a plethora of special attacks, a high special attack stat, options to set up, whether it is DD for Zard or Subpataya or whatever. Slowbro gets Calm Mind. It also gets Belly Drum. Not that he's ever going to use that. I really like these picks against Zokuru. We already discussed the merit of fighters. Houndoom is another fighting weakness, by the way. And like I said, mixed breakers as a whole could be difficult for Zokuru. Slowbro fits the bill. I think these are good picks. Zokuru has committed to the Spikes War. He takes out another special wall. So Tyros is really, truly going to be basically just lax. Maybe in a desperate situation, he builds the Celebi or the Raikou to be a special wall, but far, far more special padding on Zokuru's end. And then in addition to the Ludicolo, he's going to grab Glalie as well. So this has been a consistent theme throughout the drafts for Tyros. He really has been a non-combatant by and large in the Spikes War. He took the first pick Skarm, which obviously that's going to have spikes. And then he's got the Starmie as well, which is probably in most matchups going to have spin, though it doesn't have to. It can just be off-star or what have you. But beyond those very early picks, the round 1 Skarm, the round 2 Starmie, he has completely ignored the Spikes War, and he did the exact same thing in his previous drafts. He just doesn't care. He just ignores it. He doesn't value them as highly as most other players. He's going to let his opponent, spike up, spin up. I don't care. I'm just going to be the aggressor. I'm just going to attack you. So we have a battle of total opposites here, style-wise. Zoc has been very defense-minded, very stally, very reactive, very defensive, very big priority on spiking and spinning. And Tyros, total opposite, doesn't give a shit about any of that, wants to go aggro, doesn't care about spikes and spin, just wants to attack. A real contrast of styles and preferences here, and I think that can make for a lot of fun. I really can't wait to see it play out. But as I say that, Tyros with a quick late-game 180, he's going to go Tentacruel, which is one of the only remotely decent spinners remaining. Not that I think it's good, but like starting to see all the spikers on the other side. Feels like he needs a second spinner. There you go. And Magneton, Bolt Beam Resistance, and also not letting Zoc take that into his Skarmory. Don't know if Zoc would or wouldn't have, but I can totally understand why you'd be paranoid about it, so out that goes as well. Zoc is going to go totally different way. Like I said, just a couple random aggro dudes right at the end. Jinx and the latest Jolteon of the entire damn tournament, I think. We've seen Jolteon picked in round 1. Certainly by round 2 it gets picked up, but a second to last pick Jolteon is crazy good value for Zoc. I'm not sure how that slipped through the cracks, but 2 water pokes picked recently. Starmie, Arrow on the other side, Raikou on the other side, Skarm on the other side, Gyra on the other side. The Jolteon looks spicy, and I think that is a huge pickup very, very late for Zokuru. And Jinx has been damn near tournament MVP. The thing has been a monster so far in this format. If it is as good as it has so far seemed like it is based on the results, then it certainly is a higher pick, or should be a higher pick, than second to last. And another monster value pick for Zoc very, very late in this draft. So Tyros, going to opt for Camerupt. Dig it. Already talked about why I like fire types into Zoc. That opinion has not changed. And the ground typing is threatening as well, so the fact that it does both, really, really good. I could see the Camerupt along the same lines as the Entei and the Slowbro and the Charizard being a legitimate threat against Zoc, and things like Dugtrio, for example, are not there on the other side. So I don't think the Camerupt is super, super vulnerable, and I think he might get good value. I hope it does, in fact, end up making a team. And then with his final pick, he's going to take Slowking. Same thing, mixed breaker. He's got the Bro, got the King. He's got all the offensive tools that he needs. Don't know that he ever really shored up the special weakness, but I don't know exactly what he could have picked up at this point that would really truly do that. I think the ship has sailed, but the final count for Tyros is going to be just the one spiker. Never takes a stab at Smeargle or anybody like that, and 2 rapid spinners. And assuming that Zokuru does not take a spinner, which is not the case, he does take a spinner here, believe it or not. It doesn't look like something that should rapid spin, but Kabutops, however you want to pronounce it, does in fact learn rapid spin. And that is going to leave us with all 3 spinners for Zokuru in the Fori and the Armaldo and the Kabutops. And then the 2 spikers in Fori and Glalie. So he's going to have at least 1 spikeless team. And that's our draft. What do you guys think? Like I said, the weird thing here, because I lean Zokuru, but the weird thing with ever counting out a draft like the one that Tyros has is, like I said, just in this game in general, not just in this draft, not just in this format, just generally speaking, in Pokemon as a whole, aggression just gets there. You just win sometimes. You get crits, you get freezes, you get paras, you get luck. The more you attack, the more BS you get. It's just a numbers game. You know, if you're attacking 8 times, you're way more likely to get a crit or an added effect or whatever than someone who's only attacking twice. That's just the nature of the beast. So it's difficult to ever count out someone who has a draft like Tyros has, where the aggression, the pressure, several versatile sets, they could just get there. All that said, like I said, I like Zok's draft better. I feel like, Tyros has been the one opponent, the one player, most of all, who just does not give a fuck what his opponent is drafting. Just totally ignores his opponent and just picks what he wants to pick and just picks aggressive stuff, and that's it. Just does not care on the other side. So, I feel like Zok responded to the picks better. He's got the spike advantage. He's got the spin advantage. He's got the special wall advantage. I feel like his teams are more cohesive. He's probably a better ADV player. At least he is in my mind. So, on paper, it's supposed to be Zokuru here, but that's been the case for at least a round or 2 for Tyros, and the on paper just hasn't mattered. Tyros is here, so, is this the Cinderella story? Is the clock midnight? Are we done? Or is Tyros going to be on to the semi-finals? I'm going to pick Zok, but Tyros has proven me wrong already, and who effing knows, man? Maybe with all these scary, aggressive threats, maybe, just maybe, he'll do it again. You guys tell me who you think won this draft. I always want to hear your comments. I appreciate you guys watching. Link in the description to the Discord server that I would love for you to join. If you've not done so already, please hit the like button. Please consider subscribing to the channel. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.